And they're like, well, I can't tell you, I'm not going to tell you what my husband told me because I didn't see what my husband saw. I can tell you what I saw because it's what I witnessed. I said, that's fine, because this person wasn't going to tell me anything. And then the person told me, I was sitting in the house. There was a thud, or like a thud sound. I felt it like a rumble. I was like, oh my, what's that? And I got up and I ran outside and I saw my husband standing out there on the porch, and my husband was he was like staring off to the distance, and I looked where he was staring, and she goes, and I saw what you said was Susan's plane. She's like, I saw that little white plane. And she's like, and I saw it, and she's like, and then, immediately afterwards, the smoke started to rise up underneath of it. And I told this person, I said, wow. I said, what you just told me is the same thing that this other woman told me. And when I told her that, she went, oh, that's my neighbor.
Yeah, great.
So it was one of those where I ended up, without ever having the addresses, just coming across names and getting phone numbers. I spoke to two people who live next door to each other who witnessed the same thing. This person got outside probably just a couple seconds before their neighbor. I spoke to the neighbor. The neighbor did the same thing. At first was like, I didn't see anything, this and that. One thing that the neighbor told me was, you know what, come back in 20 years when all our kids grow up, and I'm sure a lot of us will tell you a lot of things.
Holy mackerel.
And like that blew my mind. And then that's when, this person spent a lot of time, and I'm so thankful because helping me understand this white plane more, because this person told me, after she had witnessed it, she said she had actually became obsessed because they started telling her, the FBI, she did a report, the FBI is like, what you saw was a corporate jet. It was like, no, listen, don't lie to me. I don't care.
Right.
I'm out here, you think I'm some hillbilly or something like that. I know what I witnessed. And they told me that, she spent about 6 months on the internet trying to find an image of it. She's like, it was ruining my work life.
Yeah.
It was ruining my family life.
Yep.
She's like, I had become obsessed with this because I knew that I'd been lied to. I knew what I saw. And she went, I looked for 6 months, and she's like, I couldn't find anything. And then I was just like, you know what? It's like it didn't happen. And she's like, and I haven't talked about it since that time until you called me today. And she's like, now, do you want me to, make a video? She's like, I'm not going to do that. She's like, a lot of people out here saw it. She's like, we all got kids. She's like, maybe come back in 20 years when our kids are growing up. I'm sure a lot of us will tell you all about it.
All right, let me just stop you there before you go into the DMORT stuff, and we're probably out on that. But you know what? I get, ridiculous emails and stupid statements and stuff about, well, it was a conspiracy. Why would we all know? People forget a lot of things. One, that people, for the most part, have an evil tendency and can be bought out, and money will do a lot, and that takes care of that. Secondly, you could be threatened with your life, your pension, your job, whatever.
Yeah, those you can't buy, you can intimidate.
And then thirdly, if that doesn't work, and I've said this before, you get sent pictures of your wife and the children at the supermarket.
That, and or you just get a campaign to discredit you to make you look like.
Or you get dissed, yes.
Yeah, a lot of people try to ridicule Susan McElwain, to try to belittle her or in some way to try to diminish her story. If you saw, there was a History Channel actually. This is interesting. I interviewed her, and I shared it with some people. I didn't put it online because there was talks of other people wanting to use it in documentaries and this and that.
Okay.
And I was hesitant. I held it out for a few months. And what I found out is that some of those people apparently must have shared this information with other people, and the History Channel went and tracked down Susan McElwain and interviewed her. I don't know if you're familiar with that. They did a debunking 9/11 special.
I don't have the stomach to watch that.
Yeah, they did one, and they tracked down Susan McElwain. And what they did was they documented her whole story, but her whole story about, being on Bridge Street and pulling up to the intersection, this and that, they just act like she never told them any of that. Instead, they said, what did you see afterwards? And she's like, oh, there was a white plane up in the sky, but, he was up real high circling around. And that's the only clip they put in there, and they used that to push the corporate jet theory again in their garbage so-called documentary or whatever it was.
No, but I mean the point is clear, and this happened also. Without going on about this, but I had people came on that were good people to talk about abuses of DIFAS, or Children Protective Services, and they went on telling stuff with all these great hopes that that their case would be vindicated, and the shit was edited out of it. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. That's I've gotten emails where people have sent that they've tracked down addresses where I've lived in the past, thinking that it was my current address, and sent me like links on Google to my house, like to try to intimidate me. I've had that happen.
Well,
but I mean, thankfully they were old addresses, and it's just like, wow, it's a little bit of a reality bite. But at the same time, like in that case, I'm like, well, if they don't have my current address, then at least it's not the NSA that's doing this.
No, but
they just show up and stuff you in the trunk.
Yeah, but it's good to have a 9mm in your house, and if you get
absolutely,
I know,
absolutely,
I do.
Someone's coming at 3 a.m. I'm ready.
Yeah, it ain't the newspaper boy. Lastly, and I got this absolutely vitriolic email from a Looney Tune. Who, and that's one of the reasons why I don't do Beyond the Grassy Knoll anymore. I'm like, think of be eaten, because I'm just tired of the idiots. But the whole idea, and this is what I'm saying, I got castigated because you hear this all the time. Oh, you're disrespecting those who are dead. All right, hold on. And it's where we're going. And you wrote about this also in that email you sent me. And that is, let's get to the reality about DMORT. You had at least 4 organizations that were handling supposedly the remains. Nobody had any oversight over every single step. The FBI, I guess you could say, started it, and they ended it. But honestly, again, I don't believe there's any remains of any of the people that were supposedly on that plane in Flight 93. But, I mean, tell me, Dominic, there was no oversight. Nobody knows what remains were given to whom.
And where they came from or anything. Like, Wally Miller, I went out there and I was like, he told me, I was like, well, Wally's got photos. So he told someone, it was like, oh, make an appointment, come out, I'll show you all of them. So I had the appointment. I knew when I got there today, I was going to be like, where's the photos? That was the first thing I wanted, was as much photos as I could get. So I asked Wally, he had to go get them. He goes out in the other room, he comes back, and he's got a shoebox full of photos. And all the photos are for like, there's hundreds of them. 95, 97% of them are just the immediate, vicinity there, the crash site going into the woods back by that cabin, showing this silver scattered, light, flimsy-looking material, debris.
Right.
And I'm digging through, and finally I found, the couple shots of human remains I described earlier, like the severed left arm and a couple internal organs which were like in plain view. And I started asking Wally, I was like, was there, what was the documentation? He's like, there really wasn't any. I was like, did you guys do a grid? He's like, I wanted to do a grid. The FBI came in and said there ain't no manpower to do a grid, which, that's just ridiculous.
No, and at that point, the FBI took it over, and who knows what happened.
Absolutely. And then from there on in, I started going, well, where's the rest of the photos? And, I started looking, and after that, all the photos of human remains are all taken in the lab, or they're all in the control. There's no more photos at a crash site. So other than this arm and this 2 organs, I have no idea where anything came from. So then you find out that the FBI apparently recovered these remains, and that the FBI brought them to Wally and at the DMORT lab there or whatever, and they gave him the remains.